When we begin our journey into the vast and intricate world of Greek mythology, it is important to allow ourselves to sink slowly into the stories as if we were drifting along a gentle river of ancient imagination. Greek mythology is not just a collection of old tales or distant histories. It is a tapestry of human emotion, divine intervention, and extraordinary adventures that feel both timeless and familiar. Among the many gods and goddesses who inhabit this world, one stands out for his unpredictability, his contradictions, and his remarkable ability to blur the line between order and chaos. This is Dionysus, a figure whose very existence seems to embody the messy, unpredictable, and often astonishing nature of myth itself. Dionysus is unlike most of the other Olympian gods. While some gods appear orderly, measured, and certain, Dionysus embodies contradiction. He is both joyous and dangerous, bringing celebration as easily as he brings chaos. In his presence, life is not predictable, and that unpredictability is part of his charm. To understand Dionysus is to accept that the world of Greek mythology is not always tidy or moralistic. It is full of surprises, lessons, and, at times, bewildering twists that reflect the complexities of life itself. As we begin this exploration, it helps to slow down, to imagine the faint rustle of olive leaves in a warm Greek breeze, the soft lapping of water against ancient stone, and the distant echo of footsteps along cobblestone paths of cities long gone. This is the setting in which Dionysus moves, not always gracefully, but always compellingly, leaving traces of his wild, intoxicating energy wherever he goes. The stories of Dionysus are not meant to be rushed. Each tale carries layers of meaning, cultural significance, and a subtle poetry that rewards a patient listener. He is the god of wine, the bringer of ecstasy, the instigator of madness, and the protector of those who celebrate life in its fullest, most untamed forms. Yet, these same qualities make him a figure of fear for some and a source of fascination for others. His myths are often messy, sometimes shocking, and always deeply human in their reflection of desire, jealousy, and the search for freedom. It is this messiness that makes Dionysus particularly compelling to explore in a calm, storytelling manner. Unlike the linear heroics of some myths, Dionysus's narrative twists and turns like a slow river meandering through hills and valleys. One moment, he is teaching mortals the secrets of the vine, the art of cultivating grapes that will become wine, a gift that transforms human experience. The next moment, he is evading threats from jealous gods, persecuted by kings who fail to understand his power, or leading ecstatic followers into wild revelry in forests and mountains. This duality, this constant oscillation between joy and danger, mirrors life itself and invites the listener to reflect gently on the unpredictability of existence. Before we dive into the more dramatic episodes of his life, it is worth pausing to consider the essence of Greek mythology itself. These myths were not merely stories. They were a way of understanding the world, a means of explaining natural phenomena, human emotion, and the divine forces that seem to shape every aspect of life. They were told around fires, in quiet temples, and beneath the open sky, inviting listeners to enter a state of wonder and contemplation. In this calm, reflective space, we can begin to follow Dionysus through the labyrinthine paths of his mythological journey. As you listen, imagine the soft glow of twilight falling over ancient landscapes, the faint scent of wildflowers in hidden valleys, and the gentle sound of wind through olive groves. These sensory touches serve not only to relax the mind, but also to immerse us fully in the world of Dionysus, where every story, no matter how chaotic, carries a sense of rhythm and beauty. In this way, even the most troubling or confusing episodes of his mythology can be experienced as a flowing narrative, soothing and intriguing at the same time. In essence, Dionysus invites us to explore life in all its complexity. He challenges expectations, defies conventions, and embodies the raw, untamed energy of existence. Yet, his stories are not merely cautionary. They are also celebratory, encouraging listeners to embrace the richness of life, even its unpredictability, and to find meaning in the interplay between joy and chaos. By approaching his myths with calm attention and gentle narration, we can discover not only the entertainment of myth, but also its reflective, almost meditative qualities. Thus, as we prepare to journey deeper into the life of Dionysus, we do so with a sense of quiet curiosity. We are not rushing, not seeking immediate answers, but allowing the stories to unfold naturally, letting their rhythm guide us. The messiness of Dionysus is not a problem to be solved. It is a feature to be appreciated, a source of fascination and gentle wonder. In this way, we enter the first step of our exploration with an open mind, ready to experience a mythology that is as complex, surprising, and calming as the soft ebb and flow of a slow evening by the Aegean Sea. The story of Dionysus begins with a birth unlike any other in Greek mythology, a birth that is both miraculous and perilous, a tale woven with mystery and divine intrigue. To understand Dionysus, we must first imagine the delicate balance between mortal curiosity and divine secrecy, a tension that is central to his origin. Semele, a mortal woman of extraordinary beauty and grace, becomes entwined in the affairs of gods, and her story is quietly, yet profoundly, important to the unfolding of Dionysus's life. Zeus, the king of the gods, notices Semele and is captivated by her charm. Their union is secretive, shrouded in a delicate web of discretion, for Zeus is already bound by the watchful gaze of Hera, his jealous and cunning wife. This secrecy is not merely a plot device, but a reflection of the intricate rules and emotions that govern Olympus. In this calm narrative, we can gently visualize the golden halls of the gods, the soft rustle of Zeus's robe as he moves quietly, the faint shimmer of divine light surrounding him, and the mortal Semele, unaware yet profoundly changed by her encounters with the divine. However, the story is tinged with danger, for Hera, always alert to Zeus's affections, discovers the affair. She approaches Semele not with immediate vengeance, but with cunning subtlety, planting seeds of doubt and curiosity. Hera's interference is subtle yet fateful. She convinces Semele to demand that Zeus reveal himself in his true form. It is a request born of fascination, of human curiosity mingled with desire, but one that mortals are never meant to make. Here, the tension builds, yet we describe it in a slow, deliberate way, allowing the listener to feel the suspense without agitation. When Zeus, bound by both love and divine honesty, appears to Semele in his full godly radiance, the mortal woman cannot survive the intensity of his divine presence. Her life is tragically cut short, a reminder of the frailty of humans in the face of the divine. And yet, even in this moment of loss, there is a miraculous intervention. Zeus rescues the unborn child from Semele's womb, sewing him carefully into his thigh until the time is right for birth. This unusual gestation is not just a fantastical detail, but a symbolic reflection of Dionysus's dual nature, born of both mortal and immortal, shaped by secrecy, survival, and extraordinary circumstance. We can slow down here and imagine the quiet majesty of Olympus, the soft rustle of Zeus's robe as he cradles the unborn god, the shimmering light that surrounds them, the sense of anticipation as life waits to emerge into the world. This is not a hurried tale, but a moment to linger on, to appreciate the mystery and miraculousness of Dionysus's beginning. In this way, the listener can feel the wonder of myth, the subtle tension between danger and salvation, and the quiet majesty of divine care. Dionysus's birth is completed when Zeus himself brings the child into the world. Unlike other gods or mortals, he emerges with a story already marked by survival, secrecy, and complexity. Even from his very first moments, he embodies the strange, messy, and magical qualities that will define his life. He is a god who moves between worlds, mortal and divine, hidden and revealed, gentle and chaotic, and this duality begins literally from the moment of his birth. It is important to note how this birth sets the stage for all of Dionysus's future adventures. The danger and secrecy that marked his entry into the world foreshadow the trials, persecutions, and miraculous interventions that will follow him throughout life. He is not a god who moves through ordinary paths. Instead, every step of his journey is shaped by extraordinary circumstance, making each story both captivating and unpredictable. And yet, we tell it slowly, softly, allowing the listener to feel the rhythm and flow of the myth as if watching a slow, mesmerizing dance of divine and mortal forces. Even in this first section of his story, we can see why Dionysus is considered both fascinating and chaotic. From a mortal mother who could not survive his father's divine radiance, to a miraculous gestation within Zeus himself, his origin is marked by contradiction, danger, and wonder. It is a gentle reminder that myths are not merely tales of heroes or simple morality. They are reflections of the complexities of life itself, offering both caution and celebration. As we prepare to move into the next phase of his life, the early years and upbringing, we carry with us this sense of awe and intrigue. We understand that Dionysus's beginnings were far from ordinary, shaped by forces beyond mortal comprehension, yet imbued with a miraculous survival that marks him as extraordinary. In this calm, reflective way, we enter the world of Dionysus, ready to follow him as he grows, learns, and eventually begins the remarkable, messy adventures that define his mythology. After his miraculous birth, Dionysus enters a world that is both protective and secretive. His infancy is unlike that of any mortal child, or even most gods, because from the very beginning he exists under the watchful eyes of those who understand the dangers he faces. Zeus, his father, aware of the jealousy and fury of Hera, knows that the young god must be shielded from harm. Thus, Dionysus's early life is spent away from the familiar realms of Olympus, in hidden valleys and secluded forests where mortal eyes rarely venture. These early years are filled with a gentle quiet, a calm interlude in the otherwise turbulent world he is destined to navigate. The nymphs, caretakers of nature and guardians of secret places, take on the delicate responsibility of raising Dionysus. They are beings who inhabit the quiet corners of the natural world, shaded groves, softly babbling streams, and secluded caves, where sunlight filters through the leaves in golden beams, casting a soft, dappled glow on everything it touches. These nymphs tend to the young god with care, feeding him, comforting him, and teaching him the subtle rhythms of the natural world. Every day is gentle and measured, full of soft sounds, the trickle of water, the rustle of leaves, the distant song of birds, that create a serene backdrop for Dionysus's growth. Even as a child, Dionysus shows signs of his extraordinary nature. There is an energy in him that is difficult to contain, a sense of curiosity and wonder that pushes him to explore the hidden corners of his secluded home. He learns the secrets of the forest and the patterns of the stars, the subtle changes in the seasons, and the magic that permeates the natural world. In these moments, the story is not rushed. It lingers on the sensory details, the tactile and visual experiences of a god growing in quietude, so that the listener can feel immersed in the calm rhythms of his early life. Yet, these years are not without their tension. The threat of Hera's wrath always looms, a reminder that secrecy is essential for survival. This protective caution shapes Dionysus's childhood, giving it a sense of hidden wonder and gentle suspense. Even as he learns and grows, there is a quiet understanding that the world beyond the nymph's care is filled with both fascination and danger. This duality, security in hiding and the latent peril outside, is a theme that will recur throughout his life, setting the stage for his later adventures. The nymphs teach Dionysus not only about survival, but also about the joy of life in all its forms. They show him how to listen to the whispers of the forest, how to observe the subtle patterns of animals and plants, and how to find delight in the simplest of pleasures. These lessons, imparted in soft tones and patient repetition, shape him into a god attuned to both the wild and the gentle aspects of existence. In this way, his upbringing is as much about harmony and observation as it is about secrecy and protection. In this calm and reflective narrative, it is easy to imagine Dionysus wandering along shaded paths, the soft earth beneath his feet, the dappled sunlight warming his face, and the gentle laughter of the nymphs accompanying him. He learns to cultivate patience, curiosity, and an appreciation for the delicate balance of the world around him. Every sound, every sensation, every quiet moment contributes to his understanding of life and divinity, preparing him for the extraordinary challenges he will later face. By the time Dionysus reaches the end of his childhood, he has already become a god shaped by both nurture and circumstance. He is strong, aware, and remarkably attuned to the subtleties of nature, yet he is also protected, hidden, and carefully guided by those who understand the fragility of his early existence. These years of careful, serene upbringing contrast sharply with the tumult and chaos that will characterize much of his adult life, highlighting the deliberate rhythm of myth. Calm moments are always punctuated by challenges, creating a balance between tranquility and tension. Thus, the story of Dionysus's childhood is one of quiet wonder, protective care, and early signs of his extraordinary nature. It is a time of learning and observation, filled with soft sounds, gentle light, and the serene guidance of the nymphs. These formative years allow him to grow safely, to understand the world around him, and to prepare for the complex, often chaotic life that awaits him beyond the secluded valleys and hidden groves of his youth. In this gentle, reflective way, the listener can feel the immersive calm of Dionysus's early life, a soothing foundation for the stories that will follow. Dionysus, now grown beyond the hidden groves of his childhood, emerges as a god unlike any other. He is the god of wine, the bringer of ecstasy, and the instigator of a wild, sometimes dangerous, yet always fascinating energy that pulses through both gods and mortals alike. Unlike other Olympians who maintain order, dignity, and measured behavior, Dionysus embodies the fluidity of life itself, the unpredictable swings between joy and chaos, celebration and madness, freedom and restraint. In this calm, reflective storytelling style, it is possible to trace the threads of his character, understanding how his divine nature both fascinates and unsettles. Wine is perhaps the most tangible of his gifts, a symbol of transformation, pleasure, and liberation. When mortals taste the fermented fruit of the vine, they partake in the magic of Dionysus. It is a gentle intoxication at first, a warmth that spreads slowly through the body, softening worries, and awakening senses to beauty that might otherwise go unnoticed. Yet, this gift is not merely for indulgence. It carries a lesson in balance and surrender. In the careful storytelling of Greek myth, wine symbolizes both joy and risk, reminding mortals that ecstasy can be both delightful and overwhelming, a duality that reflects the essence of Dionysus himself. Ecstasy, in the Dionysian sense, is not mere excitement. It is a profound release of the spirit. It is the moment when the boundaries between self and world, human and divine, begin to blur. Followers of Dionysus, especially during festivals, experience a soft but transformative energy, a gentle letting go of the ordinary constraints of life. In this narrative, it is easy to imagine the slow, hypnotic rhythm of a festival, feet moving lightly on soft earth, the murmurs of voices blending with the rustle of leaves, the fragrance of wildflowers and crushed grapes drifting through the air. These moments, though wild, are framed gently, inviting the listener to feel the allure of release without anxiety, in a soothing, sleep-friendly rhythm. Madness, too, is part of Dionysus's domain. But in mythology, it is not merely destructive. It is a form of insight, a state in which conventional order dissolves and deeper truths emerge. The god's presence encourages a gentle questioning of norms, a subtle challenge to rigid control. It is as if the mind, lightly swayed by divine energy, opens to new patterns, new connections, and new experiences. Even the most dramatic stories of Dionysian frenzy are told in a calm, narrative tone, allowing the listener to appreciate the lessons embedded in chaos rather than feel unsettled by it. Celebration is another aspect of Dionysus's identity, and it extends beyond simple revelry. It is ritual, communal experience, and a recognition of life's abundance. In every festival, dance, and song devoted to him, there is a rhythm that combines the sensual with the spiritual, the fleeting moment with timeless reflection. Through gentle description, one can imagine a circle of worshippers moving beneath the soft light of moon and stars, voices raised in harmonious chanting, feet tracing slow, deliberate patterns in the earth, as the god himself watches over the scene, unseen yet profoundly present. This is the calm ecstasy that Dionysus embodies, a paradoxical mixture of wildness and serenity, chaos and order, which invites both awe and contemplation. The contrasts within Dionysus, joy and chaos, order and freedom, pleasure and danger, are central to his appeal and to the lessons of his myths. He reminds mortals that life is never entirely predictable, that even in joy there may be risk, and that liberation carries responsibilities. Yet, in the storytelling tradition that soothes and relaxes, these contrasts are presented not as alarming but as fascinating, gently unfolding patterns for the listener to follow. It is a meditation on the delicate balance of existence, framed through myth, symbolism, and the soft cadence of narrative. In Greek culture, Dionysus's influence is profound. His presence inspires art, theater, music, and the communal experiences that form the backbone of social and spiritual life. He teaches that indulgence, creativity, and exploration are not merely permissible but necessary for understanding the fullness of existence. Each story, whether of triumph, punishment, or revelation, carries a rhythm that encourages calm reflection, a slow unfolding of cause and effect, desire and consequence, human curiosity, and divine oversight. The listener, immersed in this rhythm, experiences the myth as both entertainment and gentle meditation. As the god of wine and madness, Dionysus is also a bridge between worlds. He exists between mortality and divinity, between the wildness of nature and the structured order of Olympus. In this way, he is a guide for those who seek liberation, a reminder that the world is layered with complexity and wonder. His mythology, told in a calm, immersive tone, encourages the listener to embrace the unexpected, to observe patterns in apparent chaos, and to find serenity in the awareness of life's unpredictable beauty. Even as we explore Dionysus's adult identity, we can see the echoes of his hidden childhood, the careful nurturing by nymphs, and the miraculous circumstances of his birth. These early experiences shape his understanding of both joy and danger, informing the delicate balance he maintains throughout life. In the gentle storytelling rhythm we follow, each episode becomes a soft thread in the tapestry of his life, allowing the listener to drift calmly through the stories while absorbing the deeper lessons and quiet fascination of his character. Thus, Dionysus, the god of wine and madness, is a figure of contrasts and complexity, offering lessons in liberation, reflection, and the beauty of unpredictability. Through careful, soothing narration, we can appreciate the richness of his myths, the gentle interplay of pleasure and peril, and the calm fascination that draws listeners into the world of Greek mythology, preparing them for the further adventures and challenges that await the god who embodies both ecstasy and chaos. As Dionysus steps beyond the hidden valleys and shaded groves of his childhood, he embarks on journeys that will take him across distant lands, revealing both his divine powers and the profound lessons of his presence. His early adventures are not hurried or chaotic in themselves. They unfold slowly, each step measured, each interaction carrying meaning, as if the world itself pauses to witness his passage. These travels are a crucial part of his story, for they show the young god learning about the human world, its inhabitants, and the delicate balance between giving and receiving, teaching and protecting. One of Dionysus's central gifts is the vine, the secret knowledge of cultivating grapes, which will later be transformed into wine. As he travels through Greece and beyond, he shares this knowledge with mortals, teaching them the art of nurturing the earth, understanding seasons, and discovering the subtle beauty in fermentation and harvest. Imagine him walking along gently sloping hills, the sun dipping low behind distant mountains, casting long, soft shadows across fields of green and gold. With each step, he explains the care of the vine, the patience required to nurture it, and the joy that comes from turning its fruit into a drink that warms both body and spirit. The listener can almost feel the sun's gentle heat, smell the fragrant grapes, and sense the calm satisfaction of a life in harmony with nature. Yet, Dionysus's journeys are not without challenges. Some mortals reject his teachings, either out of fear, misunderstanding, or hubris. Kings who refuse to honor him, villagers who mock his rituals, or communities who fail to respect his gifts face subtle but inevitable consequences. These episodes are not told to shock or alarm. Instead, they are narrated with a gentle rhythm, emphasizing the moral and poetic balance in Dionysus's world. For example, a village that scorns the gift of wine may find its crops withering, or a king who disrespects the god experiences a slow, ironic unraveling of his power. In each story, the calm storytelling emphasizes cause and effect without tension, allowing the listener to absorb lessons softly, like a gentle unfolding of natural order. Throughout these travels, Dionysus often encounters landscapes that are both enchanting and instructive. He walks along rivers with mirrored surfaces reflecting the pastel skies, passes through forests where light filters through leaves in delicate patterns, and climbs hills that overlook sleepy towns below. These settings, described in slow, sensory-rich narration, create an immersive experience, allowing the listener to feel present in his adventures without rushing or agitation. The emphasis is on the flow of his journey rather than dramatic confrontation, highlighting the soothing rhythm of his travels. Dionysus's wanderings also introduce him to his followers, early versions of the Maenads and Satyrs, who will later play a central role in his mythos. These companions are drawn to his energy, responding to the freedom, joy, and vitality he embodies. Even in these early encounters, there is a gentle contrast between the wildness he inspires and the calm wisdom he imparts, showing the dual nature of his presence. He is a god who teaches through both example and experience, blending instruction with immersive, almost meditative participation in the natural rhythms of life. The consequences of accepting or rejecting Dionysus's gifts are an essential part of his travels. Unlike a god who punishes arbitrarily, Dionysus's interactions reflect the choices of mortals, reinforcing the theme of cause and effect in a narrative style that is gentle and contemplative. He is patient, guiding humans toward understanding, yet persistent in ensuring that his lessons are remembered. These dynamics, narrated in a calm, immersive manner, create a soothing tension that maintains listener interest without disrupting relaxation. Even in his early adventures, Dionysus displays a remarkable combination of care and assertiveness. He nurtures, teaches, and delights in human ingenuity, yet he is also capable of subtle retribution when respect and understanding are absent. This balance defines much of his mythology, a god who is simultaneously protective and wild, orderly and chaotic, gentle and formidable. The listener, guided by soft narration, can feel the rhythm of these contrasts, appreciating both the wonder of his gifts and the quiet consequences of their misuse. By the end of his early travels, Dionysus has begun to establish the patterns that will define his adult life. He moves across landscapes slowly, deliberately, imparting knowledge, observing human behavior, and gathering followers. The tales of this period are not filled with frenetic energy, but with measured, reflective experiences, emphasizing observation, teaching, and the subtle shaping of human society. In this way, his early adventures are as much about internal growth, both for him and for those he encounters, as they are about external action. Thus, the early travels of Dionysus are a tapestry of calm lessons, gentle journeys, and immersive encounters. They reveal a god deeply connected to the earth, to human experience, and to the delicate interplay of joy, responsibility, and respect. Through soft, narrative storytelling, we follow him across hills, rivers, and forests, learning alongside him, experiencing the rhythm of his life, and appreciating the slow, mesmerizing unfolding of myth. Each adventure, while filled with potential danger or challenge, is framed in a manner that soothes, educates, and prepares the listener for the more dramatic episodes that lie ahead in his remarkable, messy mythology. Even among the gods of Olympus, the family of Dionysus is far from simple or orderly. Like many divine families, it is full of tension, rivalry, and emotion that mirrors the complexities of human relationships. Dionysus's parentage alone ensures that his existence will be a source of conflict. As the son of Zeus and Semele, he occupies a space that is both privileged and perilous, revered for his divine nature, yet resented for the circumstances of his birth. The gods, like humans, are not free from jealousy, pride, or the need to assert authority, and these emotions shaped the early dynamics surrounding Dionysus. Hera, Zeus's wife, embodies the force of jealous vigilance. Her watchful eye and cunning intelligence make her one of the most persistent sources of tension in Dionysus's life. From the very moment of his conception, her awareness of Semele's relationship with Zeus has set the stage for conflict. Hera's anger is not sudden or violent. It is slow, deliberate, and strategic, a quiet undercurrent that constantly reminds the young god of the fragility of his position. This tension between the king of gods, his mortal consort, and the offspring born of their secret union forms the backdrop of much of Dionysus's story, giving his adventures an added layer of intrigue, even in calm narration. Zeus, for his part, embodies protection and authority, balancing affection for Dionysus with the responsibilities of a ruler. He is a figure of reassurance and power, carefully guarding the young god while allowing him to grow into his extraordinary abilities. Zeus's interventions are gentle but decisive, illustrating the complex mixture of care and authority that defines divine family dynamics. In this storytelling approach, the listener can imagine the quiet exchanges on Mount Olympus, the soft glow of divine light in golden halls, and the subtle ways Zeus ensures his son's survival, all while maintaining calm and reflective pacing. The interactions among other Olympians add further layers of complexity. Gods and goddesses who view Dionysus with curiosity, suspicion, or even mild disdain contribute to a network of tension that shapes his identity. These relationships are not filled with loud conflict, but with subtle observations, whispered warnings, and the occasional display of divine power. In this way, Dionysus learns early on to navigate the intricate web of relationships within his family and the wider Olympian community. The stories reveal both the messiness and the delicate structure of divine society, portrayed in a calm, immersive tone that encourages reflection rather than alarm. Despite these tensions, Dionysus's divine family also provides opportunities for growth, understanding, and resilience. The challenges he faces teach him patience, adaptability, and insight. He observes the consequences of jealousy, the effects of pride, and the delicate balance of power, internalizing lessons that will guide his interactions with mortals and gods alike. The listener, through soft narration, can sense the quiet unfolding of these lessons, appreciating the human-like emotions of the gods without being drawn into chaos, creating a soothing narrative rhythm. Dionysus's relationship with Hera is particularly instructive. Though she is often seen as an antagonist, her presence and actions underscore the significance of consequence and awareness. Her jealousy motivates events that push Dionysus toward growth, resilience, and eventual mastery of his unique powers. Even as these stories might contain conflict, they are presented gently, emphasizing narrative flow, cause and effect, and the subtle beauty of mythological lessons. In this way, the listener can remain calm and engaged, experiencing the drama as a slowly unfolding story rather than an urgent or frightening one. Other gods and goddesses, while less central than Zeus and Hera, contribute to the texture of Dionysus's familial relationships. They may observe, critique, or offer guidance, adding depth to the stories and highlighting the mixture of affection, rivalry, and intrigue that characterizes the Olympian family. Each interaction is an opportunity for gentle reflection, allowing the listener to consider themes of loyalty, jealousy, care, and power in a relaxed and immersive way. Through all this, Dionysus learns to move carefully within the world of gods and mortals alike. His understanding of relationships, conflict, and subtle influence becomes part of his identity, shaping both his abilities and his approach to human interactions. The calm narration allows these lessons to unfold slowly, helping the audience appreciate the intricate dynamics without feeling tension or stress. Ultimately, the messy family dynamics surrounding Dionysus highlight both his vulnerability and his resilience. They reveal a god who is constantly navigating the complexities of divine emotion, human-like conflict, and the delicate interplay of power, affection, and jealousy. By presenting these stories in a soft, reflective style, the listener is invited to consider the depth and richness of his family relationships, gaining insight into the emotional and narrative threads that define his mythology. Thus, Even as Dionysus moves forward into the adventures, challenges, and revelries that define his life, the lessons from his family remain embedded within him. They shape his understanding of trust, caution, authority, and care. In this calm and immersive storytelling approach, the listener can absorb the complexities of divine relationships in a soothing manner, appreciating the balance of drama and reflection that permeates Greek mythology, all while feeling relaxed and drawn gently into the rhythm of Dionysus's life. Even as Dionysus begins to reveal the depth of his powers and the generosity of his gifts, not all who encounter him respond with understanding or respect. Some mortals, driven by fear, pride, or simple disbelief, reject the divine presence he embodies. Others, whether kings or ordinary villagers, act impulsively, failing to recognize the delicate balance of power and consequence that exists in his mythology. These early rejections, while dramatic in their unfolding, are narrated gently, emphasizing calm observation over alarm, allowing listeners to drift through the tales while absorbing their lessons. One of the most notable examples is the story of Pentheus, the king of Thebes. Pentheus, skeptical of Dionysus and determined to suppress his cult, stands as a symbol of human resistance to divine influence. He views the god with suspicion, unable to perceive the beauty and transformative power in Dionysus's teachings and festivals. His attempts to control or punish the god are not framed as epic battles, but as quiet misjudgments, each step carefully leading to inevitable consequences. In this storytelling approach, the listener is encouraged to appreciate the narrative pattern, actions, reactions, and subtle divine response, all unfolding with calm rhythm. Dionysus's retribution, however, is never arbitrary or cruel for its own sake. It is measured, poetic, and reflective of the choices made by those who oppose him. Mortals who mock, ignore, or act against him often find themselves entangled in gentle, ironic reversals of fortune. A king who seeks to imprison or humiliate Dionysus may fall victim to his own rigidity, discovering that control cannot constrain the wild, fluid energy that the god represents. These punishments, though dramatic in story, are conveyed with a soft, deliberate pace, emphasizing the moral and symbolic lessons rather than instilling fear. The methods Dionysus employs to correct or teach are as diverse as they are fascinating. They range from illusions and subtle manipulation to larger, more public demonstrations of divine power. Through each episode, the listener can imagine scenes unfolding slowly, almost dreamlike, the quiet tension before a revelation, the soft, ethereal glow of divine presence, the murmured whispers of awe among those who witness the god's power. By framing the tales this way, the narrative maintains a sense of calm curiosity, allowing listeners to feel immersed in the mythology without feeling threatened or rushed. Dionysus's persecution is not limited to mortals alone. Even among gods and nymphs, conflicts occasionally arise, though they are often resolved through subtle demonstrations of wisdom and patience rather than open confrontation. The interplay of jealousy, misunderstanding, and divine pride highlights the recurring theme of balance between action and consequence. The slow pacing and gentle description of these episodes help maintain the sleep-friendly rhythm, turning potentially intense narratives into a soft meditation on choice, respect, and harmony. The broader significance of these persecutions lies in the demonstration of cause and effect. Dionysus's interactions with those who oppose him illustrate a delicate pattern. Disrespect leads to gentle reproof, misunderstanding invites correction, and resistance invites subtle transformation. By presenting these sequences in a calm and reflective manner, the listener can observe the natural order of mythological consequence, recognizing the poetic justice embedded in each story without experiencing anxiety or tension. Additionally, the stories of punishment and persecution serve as a mirror for human behavior. They invite the audience to consider the ways pride, fear, and refusal to accept guidance or change can shape one's life. In this way, Dionysus's actions are as much instructive as they are narrative, offering insight into the human condition while maintaining the immersive, relaxing storytelling style that is ideal for contemplation and sleep. Even in moments of retribution, there is an underlying sense of artistry and rhythm. Dionysus is a god whose actions blend warning and wonder, illustrating that chaos and beauty often coexist. Mortals and immortals alike learn from his presence, and the gentle cadence of the stories encourages reflection rather than alarm. Listeners can imagine the slow unfolding of these events, the quiet transformation of those involved, and the overarching sense of divine balance that guides the god's actions. Through these narratives of persecution and punishment, we see Dionysus as a figure both powerful and nuanced. He embodies justice tempered by creativity, instruction delivered with subtlety, and consequence administered with calm precision. His mythology, far from being a series of violent confrontations, becomes a gentle exploration of cause and effect, choice and consequence, pride and humility. This reflective approach allows the listener to absorb the stories with ease, feeling both fascination and relaxation. Ultimately, the tales of punishment and persecution reveal the complexity of Dionysus's character and the layered structure of his mythology. He is at once a teacher and a disruptor, a god of joy and a god of consequence. By narrating these episodes slowly and deliberately, with attention to sensory detail and reflective rhythm, the listener experiences not just the drama of the myths, but also the soothing cadence and contemplative beauty that define the best bedtime storytelling of Greek mythology. After establishing his influence in Greece, Dionysus embarks on journeys beyond familiar lands, traveling to Thrace, Asia, and other distant regions where his presence is not yet known. These travels are both a continuation of his divine mission and an exploration of the world beyond the borders of his birthplace. Unlike hurried adventures, his movements are deliberate, each step measured, each encounter carrying significance, allowing the listener to drift into a calm, immersive experience of mythological exploration. In Thrace, Dionysus encounters people who are both curious and cautious. The land itself, with its rolling hills, dense forests, and rivers that glimmer like liquid silver under the sun, seems to reflect the energy of the god who walks among them. He introduces rituals and celebrations, teaching the inhabitants how to honor the vine, the grape, and the mysteries of life and ecstasy. Imagine the soft glow of twilight as villagers gather around fires, the flickering light dancing across their faces, while the gentle cadence of music and chanting rises into the evening sky. Through these descriptions, the listener can feel the serene atmosphere of Dionysian worship, experiencing the calm rhythm of ritual without disturbance or alarm. As he moves into Asia, the landscapes change, bringing new challenges and opportunities. Here, Dionysus encounters unfamiliar customs and beliefs, requiring him to adapt his approach while maintaining the essence of his teachings. His presence is subtle yet transformative. He introduces the magic of the vine, the art of celebration, and the liberating energy of ritual, all while observing the customs and wisdom of the people he meets. These interactions are narrated slowly, allowing the listener to imagine the intricate patterns of cultural exchange, the soft murmurs of conversation, and the quiet thrill of discovery that accompanies the god's journeys. Alongside these cultural encounters, Dionysus gathers followers who will become his devoted companions. These early disciples, inspired by his teachings and the subtle joy of his rituals, form the beginnings of the Maenads and Satyrs, groups that will accompany him in later myths. In these moments, the listener can picture the gentle laughter of new followers, the soft rustle of leaves in forests where secret rites are held, and the quiet sense of unity that develops through shared experience. The narrative pace emphasizes reflection, allowing each listener to feel the rhythm of community, devotion, and gentle instruction. Dionysus's travels in Thrace and Asia are not without obstacles. Some rulers and villagers resist his presence, either out of fear, pride, or misunderstanding. These moments, however, are narrated with calm deliberation, highlighting the patterns of consequence and learning rather than conflict or chaos. A leader who opposes Dionysus may experience subtle shifts in fortune, a gentle unraveling of control that teaches respect without dramatic violence. These tales, told with measured pacing and attention to sensory detail, encourage quiet contemplation, allowing the listener to absorb lessons gently, almost as a meditation on cause and effect. The rituals and festivals Dionysus introduces during these journeys are central to his enduring influence. They are not merely acts of celebration. They are immersive experiences that combine music, dance, and reverence for the natural world. Picture dancers moving slowly in circular patterns, their feet brushing soft earth, hands raised toward the sky as they chant the name of the god. The air is fragrant with crushed grapes, wildflowers, and incense, while the gentle murmurs of conversation blend with the natural sounds of rivers, wind, and forest creatures. Through these sensory details, the listener feels present in the narrative, absorbing both the spiritual and aesthetic dimensions of Dionysian worship. Dionysus's time in Thrace and Asia also reinforces his dual nature as both nurturing and formidable. While he offers knowledge, joy, and celebration, he subtly enforces the importance of respect and understanding. Those who embrace his teachings experience transformation and delight. Those who resist encounter lessons that are instructive yet measured. The slow, reflective storytelling style allows these contrasts to be absorbed calmly, emphasizing the gentle rhythm of myth rather than dramatic confrontation. By the end of his travels in these regions, Dionysus has begun to establish the patterns that will define his mythology. The interplay of joy and chaos, liberation and restraint, guidance and consequence. He is both teacher and provocateur, blending delight with subtle instruction, all while maintaining a presence that is compelling yet soothing. The listener, guided by immersive narration, can feel the flow of his journeys, the quiet evolution of his followers, and the serene majesty of the landscapes through which he moves. In essence, Dionysus's journeys to Thrace and Asia are not only about the spread of his cult, but also about the gentle exploration of the world, the cultivation of followers, and the establishment of a divine rhythm that balances celebration with instruction. Through calm, detailed storytelling, the listener is transported alongside him, experiencing the landscapes, rituals, and human interactions with soft wonder, reflecting on the beauty and complexity of a god whose influence extends far beyond the lands of his birth. As Dionysus's journeys continue, his influence begins to attract devoted followers who are drawn to both his teachings and his extraordinary presence. Among these disciples, the Maenads stand out as the most devoted, female followers whose lives are intertwined with the rhythms, rituals, and mysteries of the god. These women, inspired by Dionysus's dual nature, both nurturing and wild, embody a unique blend of freedom, ecstasy, and devotion. Their stories, told in a calm, immersive style, reveal not only the depth of their commitment, but also the subtle patterns of myth that guide the actions of both gods and mortals. The Maenads are often portrayed in myth as being ecstatic in their devotion, but this ecstasy is not chaotic in the way one might imagine. It is a measured, almost meditative release, a gentle surrender to the rhythms of life and the guidance of Dionysus. They move through forests, fields, and valleys in quiet communion with nature, their footsteps soft against the earth, their hands brushing against leaves, flowers, and vines as they engage in sacred rites. The soft murmurs of chants, the delicate sound of musical instruments, and the gentle rustling of foliage create an immersive atmosphere, allowing the listener to experience the serenity and subtle energy of these rituals. Satyrs, the male companions of Dionysus, complement the Maenads with a playful, mischievous presence. They embody the wild and unpredictable aspects of nature, yet even their energy is tempered by the guidance of Dionysus. Together with the Maenads, they form a harmonious group that moves between freedom and order, revelry and reverence, chaos and calm. In this narrative, the listener can picture a quiet glade where followers gather, soft sunlight filtering through the trees, the smell of crushed grapes in the air, and the gentle music of pipes and tambourines providing rhythm to their movements. These followers are drawn not only to the pleasures of the vine and ritual, but also to the deeper lessons embedded within Dionysus's teachings. They learn the delicate balance of joy and consequence, the importance of respect, and the interconnectedness of human and divine. Even when participating in ecstatic celebrations, the Maenads and Satyrs are guided by the god's presence, experiencing liberation that is both thrilling and reflective. The soft, Descriptive storytelling emphasizes the meditative quality of these moments, turning potentially intense scenes into calming, immersive experiences for the listener. Dionysus's relationship with his followers is one of gentle authority and inspiring example. He nurtures them, teaches them, and allows them to explore the limits of their own understanding and expression, all while maintaining the serene rhythm of his guidance. In quiet moments, he might walk among them, observing, smiling, or offering subtle instruction, his divine presence blending seamlessly with the natural world. This calm narrative encourages the listener to feel the peaceful, almost magical quality of these interactions, highlighting the gentle influence of a god who bridges both wildness and wisdom. The rituals of the Maenads often involve dance, song, and symbolic interaction with the natural world. They weave garlands from flowers and vines, trace patterns in soft soil, and chant in unison, their voices rising and falling like a gentle stream. These practices are not meant to alarm or excite excessively. Instead, they are immersive experiences that cultivate mindfulness, connection, and subtle ecstasy. The listener, guided by slow, descriptive narration, can feel the rhythm of each movement, the fragrance of the forest, and the soft warmth of sunlight on skin, creating a calming, reflective environment. Through these followers, Dionysus's influence spreads organically. The Maenads and Satyrs serve as conduits of his presence, carrying lessons, rituals, and stories to other communities. Their devotion illustrates the transformative power of engagement with the divine, how surrendering to rhythm, joy, and guidance can cultivate understanding, harmony, and subtle empowerment. The narrative, told in a slow, immersive style, allows the audience to appreciate the dynamics of these relationships without feeling tension or conflict, emphasizing reflection, wonder, and serenity. Even the playful or wild moments of the Maenads and Satyrs are framed with a calm, contemplative tone. Their energy, though seemingly chaotic, exists within the patterns set by Dionysus, creating a gentle contrast between freedom and structure. The listener can imagine laughter echoing softly through groves, leaves and petals scattering lightly in the breeze, and the gentle guidance of the gods smoothing the edges of exuberance into harmony. This narrative approach ensures that the myths remain engaging yet sleep-friendly, preserving the beauty and rhythm of Dionysian legend. Ultimately, the Maenads and Satyrs are more than followers. They are reflections of Dionysus's nature itself. Through their devotion, energy, and subtle surrender, they illustrate the balance between chaos and order, ecstasy and reflection, freedom and respect. Their stories, told with sensory detail, gentle pacing, and immersive narrative, allow the listener to experience the calm, mesmerizing rhythm of Dionysus's world, preparing them for the continuing adventures, challenges, and transformations that lie ahead in his remarkable mythology. As Dionysus's influence spreads, his presence becomes entwined with sacred rites and celebrations that encapsulate the essence of his mythology. Among these, the Bakshik mysteries stand as a pinnacle of devotion, secretive yet mesmerizing practices that reveal the duality of his divine nature. These rituals are not merely acts of revelry. They are meditative, transformative experiences designed to immerse participants in the rhythms of life, nature, and divine presence. Told in a calm, narrative voice, the stories of these mysteries allow the listener to drift gently through the unfolding patterns of myth and ritual. The Bakshik mysteries are characterized by their secrecy and intimacy. Initiates, chosen for their devotion and respect, gather in secluded groves, hidden valleys, or sacred caves, where the air is thick with the scent of crushed grapes, wildflowers, and incense. Soft rays of sunlight filter through dense foliage, casting golden light and shadows that dance upon the faces of those assembled. In these quiet, private settings, participants move in slow, deliberate patterns, guided by music, rhythm, and the unseen presence of Dionysus himself. The listener can imagine the soft rustling of leaves, the faint echo of choral chanting, and the gentle warmth of a summer breeze as each ritual unfolds. Music and dance are central to these ceremonies. Softly played flutes, lyres, and percussion instruments create rhythms that mirror the natural world, flowing like rivers, swaying like branches, and pulsating with the heartbeat of the forest. The initiates move in harmony with these rhythms, tracing circular patterns in the earth, their movements synchronized with both the music and the natural environment. This slow, deliberate choreography allows for a gentle trance-like state, a meditative connection to the divine that is both calming and immersive. The listener, guided by the narrative, can sense the subtle energy in the air, the soft movement of bodies, and the quiet joy that permeates the space. The rituals often involve symbolic interaction with nature. Participants may handle vines, touch water, scatter petals, or weave garlands, all as acts of reverence and connection to the god. Each motion is intentional, soft, and reflective, emphasizing mindfulness and awareness rather than frenzied activity. Even the more ecstatic elements of the rituals are framed in a gentle, rhythmic way, ensuring that the listener experiences the underlying calm and spiritual depth rather than chaos or tension. This careful narration mirrors the duality of Dionysus himself, blending liberation with discipline, ecstasy with reflection, and freedom with reverence. Through these ceremonies, Dionysus imparts lessons about life, mortality, and the interconnectedness of all things. Participants learn that surrendering to rhythm, embracing joy, and respecting both nature and divine presence are paths to understanding. The stories convey these lessons with a soothing cadence, drawing the listener into a contemplative state, where the myths are experienced as both narrative and meditative reflection. Even the occasional dramatic element, such as divine revelation or subtle punishment for disrespect, is presented gently, maintaining the immersive, sleep-friendly quality of the storytelling. Festivals dedicated to Dionysus are extensions of these mysteries, celebrated with greater public participation yet retaining a sense of reverence. The city streets or open fields become stages for dance, song, and communal sharing of wine, with participants moving in unison, echoing the sacred rhythms established in the hidden rites. Imagine the gentle clinking of cups, the soft laughter of friends, and the swaying of bodies in time with the slow cadence of music, all bathed in the warm light of sun or torch. These festivals are not chaotic. They are patterned, ceremonial, and soothing, emphasizing the communal joy and spiritual enrichment that Dionysus brings. The duality of the Bakshik mysteries and festivals, private and public, meditative and celebratory, is central to understanding Dionysus's influence. On one hand, the intimate rituals allow for reflection, introspection, and subtle spiritual awakening. On the other, the festivals cultivate community, joy, and shared experience, demonstrating the god's ability to connect deeply with individuals while influencing larger society. The listener, immersed in detailed, sensory-rich narration, can experience both aspects simultaneously, feeling calm, engaged, and quietly inspired by the depth of Dionysian myth. Even the more mysterious or ecstatic elements, often described as frenzied in other accounts, are reframed in this storytelling style as gentle explorations of freedom, emotion, and connection. The Maenads, satyrs, and other participants move with grace and rhythm, their actions guided by subtle instruction, ritual, and natural patterns. The listener can sense the pulse of life, the quiet joy of liberation, and the meditative quality of surrendering to divine presence, all without the jarring energy often associated with myths of frenzy or madness. Ultimately, the Bakshik mysteries and festivals reveal the heart of Dionysus's divine identity, a god who embodies transformation, liberation, ecstasy, and harmony. Through immersive, reflective storytelling, the listener is transported into the serene yet vibrant world of his rituals, feeling the gentle rhythm of celebration, the softness of sacred spaces, and the quiet joy of shared reverence. These narratives prepare the audience for the unfolding adventures, challenges, and divine encounters that continue to shape Dionysus's remarkable mythology, all while maintaining a sense of calm, comfort, and reflective engagement. As Dionysus's influence spreads across Greece and beyond, he inevitably encounters mortals and rulers who are skeptical of his power or unwilling to honor his divine presence. These confrontations are not chaotic or violent in the way epic battles might be imagined. Instead, they unfold with quiet inevitability, illustrating patterns of cause and effect, pride, and consequence. In the calm, immersive storytelling style suited for relaxation and sleep, the listener can follow these encounters as slow, reflective narratives, observing both the human and divine perspectives without experiencing tension or alarm. One of the most notable examples is the story of Pentheus, king of Thebes, who exemplifies human resistance to divine influence. Pentheus, wary of Dionysus's growing following, attempts to suppress the god's rituals and punish those who celebrate him. His skepticism and pride blind him to the subtle ways in which Dionysus operates, and his refusal to understand the divine rhythm of ecstasy and ritual ultimately leads to his downfall. Narrated gently, the story emphasizes the patterns of choice and consequence rather than the intensity of punishment, allowing the listener to appreciate the lessons embedded in the myth while maintaining a calm, reflective state. Throughout these confrontations, Dionysus exhibits a unique combination of patience and authority. He does not act out of anger, but rather as a guide, demonstrating the outcomes of resistance in ways that are both measured and poetic. A ruler who rejects him may face ironic reversals or subtle loss of control, not through violent intervention, but through the quiet, unfolding patterns of divine influence. These stories, told with soft pacing and sensory detail, encourage the listener to contemplate human pride, the fragility of authority, and the gentle power of divine presence. Even seemingly small confrontations carry symbolic weight. Villagers who mock his followers or disrespect his gifts may experience disruptions in their harvests or mild misfortune, teaching lessons about respect and attentiveness without dramatic fear. Dionysus's interventions, while subtle, reflect his role as both nurturer and enforcer, embodying a balance of care, instruction, and consequence. The narrative gently emphasizes the rhythm of these interactions, guiding the listener to observe patterns of cause and effect while remaining relaxed and immersed in the storytelling. These encounters with mortals also reveal the social and cultural impact of Dionysus's mythology. Kings and leaders who resist his influence often do so out of fear of losing control over their subjects. Yet the stories illustrate that true authority requires understanding, humility, and respect for forces larger than oneself. The listener, drawn into these narratives through immersive description and calm pacing, can perceive the quiet wisdom underlying Dionysus's interventions, appreciating the moral and symbolic dimensions without experiencing tension or agitation. Dionysus's influence extends beyond punishment or reproof. In some cases, he transforms resistance into learning, guiding those who initially oppose him toward recognition of his power and the rhythms of life he represents. This duality, firmness tempered by guidance, is central to his mythology, emphasizing that confrontation can be both instructive and gentle. The listener experiences the unfolding of these lessons in a slow, meditative rhythm, absorbing the balance between freedom and order, pride and humility, resistance, and understanding. Throughout these stories, sensory detail and gentle pacing maintain a soothing atmosphere. Imagine a king's palace bathed in soft twilight, the quiet murmur of advisors and guards, and Dionysus's calm presence moving like a subtle wind through the corridors. Even moments of correction or subtle retribution are described in this serene style, emphasizing the narrative patterns rather than dramatic tension. The listener is drawn into a contemplative state, observing the unfolding of human choice and divine guidance with curiosity and calm. Other mortal confrontations similarly emphasize the interplay between choice and consequence. Villagers, travelers, or local leaders may act out of misunderstanding, curiosity, or pride, and in each case, Dionysus's responses are deliberate, patterned, and symbolic. These episodes highlight the delicate balance between freedom and responsibility, pleasure and respect, and the subtle ways in which the divine interacts with human society. The narrative pace ensures that each lesson is absorbed with gentle attention, promoting reflection rather than excitement or alarm. Ultimately, the confrontations between Dionysus and mortals or kings reveal a god who is both formidable and patient. He embodies transformation and guidance, joy and consequence, liberation and subtle discipline. Through soft, immersive storytelling, the listener can follow these interactions with ease, experiencing the narrative as both educational and calming, gently preparing them for the continuing journey of Dionysus's mythology. These stories, rich in sensory detail and reflective rhythm, allow the listener to appreciate the complexity and subtle beauty of Greek myth, all while remaining relaxed and immersed in the serene cadence of the tale. Even among the gods of Olympus, Dionysus's presence creates ripples of tension, curiosity, and rivalry. Unlike mortal disputes, these divine conflicts are subtle, intricate, and often rooted in pride, jealousy, or the struggle for influence. In the immersive, sleep-friendly storytelling style, these tensions are narrated slowly, with attention to character, emotion, and consequence, allowing the listener to absorb the divine drama without anxiety or agitation. Hera, the ever-watchful wife of Zeus, continues to embody the force of opposition. Her jealousy over Dionysus's birth is not a fleeting emotion, but a persistent undercurrent that shapes many interactions in his early life. She observes his growth, tests his patience, and sometimes orchestrates subtle schemes to undermine his influence. Yet, these episodes are never chaotic or violent in the narrative. Instead, they are presented as quiet exercises of power and strategy, unfolding with a gentle rhythm, emphasizing the intelligence and foresight of the goddess as much as her potential for mischief. The listener can imagine her careful movements, her eyes quietly observing from the marble halls of Olympus, while Dionysus moves with both awareness and resilience through the intricate web of divine attention. Other Olympians also contribute to the complex pattern of divine rivalry. Gods such as Apollo, Athena, and Poseidon occasionally exhibit curiosity, caution, or mild disdain for Dionysus. Their conflicts are often symbolic, reflecting differences in temperament, power, and the ways each deity interacts with mortals. For example, Apollo's pursuit of order and rationality may clash with Dionysus's embodiment of ecstasy, spontaneity, and liberation. These tensions, however, are narrated softly, framed as contemplative contrasts rather than dramatic confrontations, allowing the listener to reflect on the balance between opposing forces without experiencing stress. Dionysus himself navigates these rivalries with a unique combination of patience, cunning, and charisma. He does not confront every slight with aggression. Instead, he adapts, influences, and sometimes gently outmaneuvers those who oppose or question him. This measured approach highlights his intelligence and strategic acumen, portraying him as a god who understands both the immediate and subtle consequences of divine actions. The listener can imagine his calm demeanor, his measured gestures, and the quiet ripple of influence that moves through the halls of Olympus, demonstrating that power does not always manifest as force. It can be patience, presence, and insight. These divine conflicts are often intertwined with mortal affairs, creating layered narratives that demonstrate the interplay of human and divine dynamics. A king who resists Dionysus may find that the subtle influence of a rival god, or the quiet disapproval of an Olympian, amplifies the consequences of his actions. These stories illustrate the patterns of cause and effect that pervade Greek mythology, all narrated in a calm, immersive style that emphasizes reflection rather than urgency. The listener can follow each thread of influence, appreciating how divine rivalry shapes both the world of gods and the lives of mortals in a seamless, soothing rhythm. Even seemingly minor rivalries carry symbolic weight. Conflicts over respect, recognition, or philosophical differences reveal the values and priorities of the gods, while subtly shaping the development of Dionysus's character. Through these encounters, he learns diplomacy, the careful exercise of power, and the importance of timing and subtlety. The storytelling approach emphasizes observation, reflection, and sensory detail. The soft echo of conversation in golden halls, the glimmer of sunlight on flowing robes, the quiet tension in the air as decisions are made, all contributing to a serene yet engaging narrative environment. Dionysus's interactions with rival gods also highlight his duality. He embodies both chaos and order, ecstasy and restraint, wildness and wisdom. These contrasts, gently narrated, create a sense of depth and complexity, inviting the listener to contemplate the intricate nature of divine relationships. Even moments that could be framed as confrontational are instead presented as thoughtful exchanges, subtle lessons, or reflections on consequence, and understanding. This approach maintains the immersive, sleep-friendly quality of the storytelling, ensuring that the listener remains calm and engaged. Through these divine rivalries, Dionysus establishes his place among the Olympians, earning recognition, respect, and occasional caution from his peers. He demonstrates that power is not only about dominance, but also about perception, influence, and measured action. By presenting these episodes slowly, with attention to emotional nuance and the quiet rhythm of the narrative, the listener is invited to follow the god's journey of self-discovery, strategy, and adaptation. Ultimately, the divine conflicts and rivalries surrounding Dionysus highlight the intricate interplay of personality, power, and perception among the gods. They reveal a world where subtlety is as important as strength, where patience is as effective as confrontation, and where observation and reflection shape the course of events as much as action. Narrated in a calm, immersive style, these stories offer insight into the delicate balance of divine life, the poetic justice woven into Greek mythology, and the reflective beauty of Dionysus's journey. Among the many aspects of Dionysus's mythology, one of the most mesmerizing is the concept of ritual madness, a controlled, ecstatic state that emerges from devotion, rhythm, and connection to the divine. Though the word madness may sound alarming, in the context of Dionysian worship, it is a gentle surrender to natural and spiritual rhythms. It is a trance-like immersion in celebration and ritual, a way for mortals to experience liberation and unity with both the god and the environment. Narrated softly, the stories of these practices allow the listener to drift into an immersive meditation, observing the gentle flow of energy without tension or alarm. The origins of ritual madness are closely tied to the teachings of Dionysus himself. As he traveled through Greece, Thrace, and Asia, he introduced his followers to music, dance, and symbolic acts that fostered a deep connection to the divine. Through these practices, participants entered states of heightened awareness and freedom, where the ordinary boundaries of mind and body softened. Imagine a grove bathed in twilight, the air rich with the fragrance of crushed grapes and wildflowers, as the soft sound of lyres and flutes weaves a gentle rhythm around the followers. Each movement, each breath, each note contributes to the slow unfolding of a trance, an ecstatic awareness that is both profound and soothing. The Maenads, female devotees of Dionysus, are often central to these experiences. Their movements are fluid, circular, and harmonious with the rhythms of nature. The ritual dances, though ecstatic, are carefully patterned, guided by the god's presence and the energy of the natural world. Soft chants rise and fall like a gentle tide, while the subtle rustling of leaves and the distant murmur of rivers blend seamlessly into the auditory landscape. The listener can feel the meditative pulse of these moments, sensing liberation without chaos, and experiencing the serenity that accompanies the ecstatic state. Satyrs, the playful and mischievous companions of Dionysus, contribute another dimension to the emergence of ritual madness. Their energy is lively yet gentle, offering spontaneity and joy that complement the focused devotion of the Maenads. Together, they create an environment where freedom and reverence coexist, where laughter and song enhance connection, and where surrendering to rhythm becomes a form of quiet meditation. The immersive storytelling allows the listener to sense this harmonious balance, imagining the interplay of movement, sound, and emotion in a serene natural setting. Ritual madness also serves as a symbolic expression of liberation and transformation. Through participation in these ecstatic states, mortals transcend ordinary concerns and experience a temporary alignment with the divine. They gain insight into the delicate balance of joy, reverence, and consequence that defines Dionysian myth. Each story of these rituals is narrated with soft cadence, focusing on sensation, rhythm, and subtle emotional shifts, turning potentially intense moments into reflective and relaxing experiences. The listener can imagine bodies swaying in time with music, hearts synchronized with breath, and the quiet, profound joy of connection with the god. Even moments of apparent chaos are framed with calm and structure. While myths describe wild celebrations and frenzied dancing, in this storytelling approach, the focus is on the meditative qualities of movement and music. Each action follows an underlying pattern. Each note resonates with intention, and each participant's energy contributes to the larger rhythm of the ritual. The listener is guided through this process gently, absorbing the beauty of the experience without overstimulation, allowing the story to soothe as it educates. The birth of ritual madness also highlights the dual nature of Dionysus himself. He embodies both ecstasy and wisdom, freedom and guidance, chaos and order. These rituals reflect his ability to harmonize opposites, creating experiences that are exhilarating yet safe, liberating yet structured. The listener can sense the subtle rhythm of his influence in every movement, note, and breath, experiencing the balance that makes Dionysian worship so mesmerizing and calming. Through these rituals, Dionysus teaches lessons about surrender, respect, and the interconnectedness of life. Participants learn to trust the natural flow of energy, to embrace emotion without losing awareness, and to recognize the unity of divine, human, and natural forces. The narrative, told with soft, immersive pacing, allows the listener to experience these lessons quietly, absorbing the gentle wisdom embedded in myth while entering a meditative state. Ultimately, the birth of ritual madness is less about frenzy or uncontrolled energy and more about guided liberation, reflective ecstasy, and gentle alignment with the divine. It transforms ordinary experience into something extraordinary, offering participants insight, joy, and a serene connection to the rhythms of life. Narrated in this calm, immersive style, the listener is drawn into the patterns of movement, sound, and emotion, feeling the soothing pulse of Dionysian ritual while remaining relaxed, reflective, and deeply immersed in the mythology. Dionysus's relationship with nature is one of the most enchanting aspects of his mythology. Unlike gods whose dominion is limited to specific domains of power or human society, Dionysus embodies the wild, untamed, and fertile aspects of the natural world. His presence is intimately linked to vines, forests, rivers, and wildlife, creating a harmonious connection between divinity and the environment. Narrated softly and reflectively, these stories allow the listener to drift into the lush landscapes of myth, experiencing the rhythms and subtle energies of nature through the eyes of the god himself. Vines, grapes, and the cultivation of wine hold particular significance in Dionysus's mythology. He is often portrayed wandering through fields and vineyards, touching leaves, observing the growth of grapes, and blessing the land with fertility. Each plant he tends seems to respond to his touch, growing fuller and more vibrant under his influence. The listener can imagine soft sunlight filtering through the leaves, the gentle rustle of vines in a light breeze, and the sweet aroma of ripening grapes filling the air. Through this sensory-rich narration, the story emphasizes calm, reflective observation, highlighting the quiet magic of the natural world. Forests are another essential aspect of Dionysus's domain. As he moves through dense groves, the soft sounds of wildlife, birds singing, insects humming, and small animals rustling through foliage, blend harmoniously with his presence. Trees seem to sway in acknowledgement, and streams glimmer in his path as if welcoming his arrival. In this immersive storytelling approach, the listener can visualize the textures, colors, and sounds of these forests, feeling the serenity and gentle vitality that Dionysus brings to the natural world. The god's connection to wilderness is neither wild and chaos nor frightening. It is meditative, reflective, and deeply intertwined with life's rhythms. Wildlife also responds to Dionysus in unique ways. Deer, birds, and other creatures appear around him as companions rather than mere subjects. They move gracefully through his presence, reflecting the harmony between divine energy and the living world. The narrative describes these interactions in soft, sensory detail. A deer stepping lightly across a sun-dappled clearing, a bird taking flight against the warm hues of sunset, and the gentle rustling of leaves following his passage. These depictions emphasize connection, reverence, and tranquility, allowing the listener to absorb the beauty of the natural environment alongside the god. Rivers, streams, and other bodies of water also hold significance in Dionysus's mythology. Flowing water symbolizes both life and transformation, mirroring the fluidity of his nature and the ecstatic qualities of his rituals. As he moves along riverbanks or pauses to observe the shimmer of a stream, the water seems to carry his energy, reflecting light and creating patterns that invite reflection. The listener can imagine the soft babble of water, the gentle glimmer of sun on ripples, and the tranquil cadence of nature in harmony with divine presence. This quiet attention to sensory detail fosters relaxation and immersion, reinforcing the meditative quality of the storytelling. Dionysus's festivals and rituals also draw inspiration from the natural world. Participants often gather in groves, near streams, or in vineyards, blending human activity with environmental reverence. They weave garlands, scatter petals, and move in patterns inspired by natural rhythms, creating a seamless connection between devotion, celebration, and ecological awareness. The narrative highlights these moments with careful pacing, sensory richness, and reflective observation, allowing the listener to experience both the beauty of ritual and the gentle harmony of nature. Even his more ecstatic and transformative influences on nature are described gently. Forests appear more vibrant after his rituals, vines grow more abundantly, and wildlife responds with quiet energy, reflecting the balance of order and spontaneity that defines Dionysus. These depictions convey the god's duality, his capacity for both wild liberation and careful nurturing, framed in a way that is soothing and immersive rather than startling or chaotic. The listener can feel the pulse of life in every leaf, stream, and creature, guided by the soft narrative rhythm that mirrors the natural world itself. Ultimately, Dionysus's connection to nature emphasizes the interdependence of divinity, humanity, and the environment. Through his presence, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and every leaf, vine, and creature takes on symbolic significance. Narrated in this calm, reflective style, the listener is transported into the serene, vibrant landscapes of myth, experiencing the gentle harmony and subtle beauty that define Dionysus's world. These stories offer not only relaxation but also a sense of wonder, demonstrating how the god's influence touches every aspect of life, growth, and natural rhythm. Through this immersion, one can appreciate Dionysus not only as a deity of wine, celebration, and ecstasy, but also as a guardian and embodiment of nature's quiet power. He teaches reverence, attention, and harmony through his interactions with plants, animals, and the elements, creating a mythology that is as soothing as it is rich in symbolic meaning. The listener, guided by gentle narration, experiences both the narrative and the meditative qualities of the god's presence, feeling calm, connected, and quietly inspired by the natural world through the lens of Dionysian myth. Transformation lies at the heart of Dionysus's mythology. Unlike gods who wield power in a purely physical or destructive sense, Dionysus inspires change that is fluid, reflective, and often subtle. His influence extends to mortals, nature, and ritual, revealing the interwoven patterns of life, consciousness, and divine presence. In this calm, immersive storytelling approach, transformation is narrated not as sudden or shocking, but as a gradual unfolding, a gentle shift that allows the listener to observe and reflect on change as a natural, rhythmic process. Among mortals, Dionysus's power to transform is often both literal and metaphorical. Stories tell of individuals altered in form, behavior, or perception as a direct result of their interactions with the god. These transformations are not intended to punish without purpose. Instead, they serve as lessons, opportunities for growth, or gateways to understanding. Imagine a mortal wandering through a sunlit grove, unaware of the subtle energy of Dionysus surrounding them. Slowly, their senses heighten, their emotions shift, and they perceive life with new depth and awareness. The narrative emphasizes the soft unfolding of these changes, allowing the listener to sense transformation as a calm, reflective process rather than a startling event. Nature itself undergoes transformation under Dionysus's influence. Vineyards flourish more abundantly after his touch, forests shimmer with vitality, and rivers seem to flow with heightened clarity. Even the smallest creatures, birds, deer, insects, respond to his presence, moving in ways that reflect the god's subtle energy. These changes, though minor in scale, illustrate the pervasive reach of Dionysus's power, demonstrating how transformation can be both gentle and profound. Through detailed sensory description, the listener can imagine leaves glistening with dew, the soft murmur of a river, and the quiet vitality of the natural world, all subtly shaped by divine influence. Rituals themselves are transformative experiences. Participants in Dionysian rites enter altered states of consciousness, whether through music, movement, or meditation on nature's rhythms. The Maenads, satyrs, and initiates of the Bakshik mysteries experience liberation from ordinary perception, accessing heightened awareness and insight. Each step, each gesture, each note of music contributes to a gradual shift, a soft opening of the mind and body to new perspectives. The listener, immersed in the calm, rhythmic narration, can sense the ebb and flow of energy, the slow progression of awareness, and the meditative joy of transformation unfolding naturally. Dionysus's transformations often bridge the human and divine. Mortals who experience his influence may gain temporary or lasting insight, a heightened appreciation of beauty, or the capacity for joy and ecstasy that mirrors the god's own nature. Transformation is not limited to physical alteration. It is also psychological, emotional, and spiritual. The narrative encourages gentle observation, allowing the listener to contemplate how change occurs gradually, how awareness deepens, and how subtle guidance from a divine presence can lead to profound personal growth. Even moments that could be framed as dramatic or alarming, such as punishment or retribution, are narrated with soft, deliberate pacing. A king or mortal who resists Dionysus may undergo transformation as a form of teaching, discovering new perspectives or experiencing changes in circumstance that encourage humility and understanding. These moments are described with attention to detail and rhythm, emphasizing reflection and the poetic justice inherent in myth rather than conflict or tension. The listener can absorb the lessons quietly, sensing the balance between guidance, consequence, and liberation. The concept of transformation extends to society and culture as well. Dionysus's rituals, festivals, and teachings influence communities, encouraging new patterns of thought, behavior, and social interaction. Through participation in his rites, humans experience collective shifts in consciousness, shared joy, and the formation of bonds that reflect both divine and natural rhythms. These changes, described gently and with immersive detail, allow the listener to visualize the spread of Dionysian influence and the subtle, calming ways it shapes lives and landscapes. Dionysus himself embodies transformation in every aspect of his being. He is a god of dualities, chaos and order, ecstasy and reflection, wildness and nurturing. His own form, behavior, and presence shift according to context, demonstrating the fluidity and adaptability of divine energy. The listener, guided by soft narration and vivid imagery, can feel these transformations as natural extensions of myth, appreciating how change is an inherent part of both the divine and human experience. Ultimately, Dionysus and transformation are inseparable. His mythology teaches that change is not to be feared but embraced, that liberation, growth, and insight emerge through gentle guidance, ritual, and attention to natural rhythms. Through slow, immersive storytelling, the listener experiences the unfolding of transformation in mortals, nature, and ritual, sensing the quiet, reflective power of the god and the calm, rhythmic patterns that define his mythology. This meditative approach ensures that the narrative is both engaging and sleep-friendly, allowing the audience to drift gently into contemplation, understanding, and relaxation. Among the most compelling aspects of Dionysus's mythology is the recurring motif of death and resurrection. This cycle is not merely a tale of tragedy or fear. Rather, it is a meditation on transformation, renewal, and the eternal rhythms of life. In the calm, immersive storytelling style, these stories are narrated slowly, focusing on sensory detail, symbolism, and the reflective nature of the divine cycle, allowing the listener to absorb the gentle lessons embedded in myth without tension or alarm. Dionysus's death, in many accounts, is symbolic as much as it is literal. He is sometimes dismembered, attacked, or challenged by mortals or rival gods. Yet these events are framed within the broader pattern of renewal and cosmic rhythm. Even in the moments of apparent destruction, there is an undercurrent of inevitability and continuity. Leaves fall and rivers flow, the wind whispers through trees, and the natural world continues its steady, deliberate pulse. The listener, guided by soft, immersive narration, can feel the quiet continuity underlying the apparent chaos, sensing the balance of endings and beginnings that defines both myth and life. Resurrection, or the return from death, emphasizes the transformative and regenerative power of Dionysus. Whether through divine intervention, the nurturing care of other gods, or the inherent resilience of his divine nature, he emerges renewed and strengthened. This rebirth is not abrupt or startling. It is a gentle reawakening, a quiet flowering of life and energy that mirrors the cycles of nature. The listener might imagine soft morning light filtering through a forest canopy, the slow unfurling of leaves, and the gentle stirring of creatures as the god rises once more, illustrating the calm, reflective rhythm of renewal. The motif of death and resurrection also carries symbolic meaning for mortals and his followers. Participation in Dionysian rituals often mirrors this cycle, allowing initiates to experience symbolic deaths and rebirths through trance, movement, and meditation. The Maenads and Satyrs, along with other initiates, may undergo psychological or emotional transformation, letting go of old patterns and emerging with heightened awareness, insight, or spiritual clarity. Through these stories, narrated with gentle pacing and sensory detail, the listener can feel the soothing, reflective quality of transformation, understanding death and rebirth as natural, cyclical processes rather than sources of fear. Even the landscapes themselves reflect this motif. Vineyards, forests, and rivers experience seasonal rhythms that echo Dionysian cycles of death and regeneration. Grapes fall and ferment, forests shed leaves and bloom again, and rivers ebb and flow, carrying the subtle energy of renewal. Dionysus, as the god of ecstasy and transformation, moves through these environments with awareness and purpose, guiding mortals and nature alike through patterns of change. The listener can imagine the gentle sounds of wind through bare branches, the first buds of spring, or the rippling surface of a calm river, all reinforcing the narrative's soothing rhythm. The motif also underscores the duality of Dionysus's power. He embodies both destruction and creation, endings and beginnings, chaos and order. Through the lens of death and resurrection, his myths explore the necessity of change, the inevitability of transformation, and the subtle wisdom of cycles. These stories, told in a calm, immersive style, allow the listener to perceive these contrasts as natural and harmonious, understanding that life, like myth, moves in gentle, repeating patterns. Even moments of apparent tragedy are narrated with careful pacing and reflective tone. Death is never abrupt or shocking. It is part of a larger, coherent rhythm that guides the listener through meditation on impermanence, renewal, and resilience. Resurrection is equally gentle, a quiet flowering of energy, awareness, and presence that mirrors the serenity of nature and the meditative quality of Dionysian myth. Through this storytelling, the listener is invited to contemplate the deeper meaning of cycles, growth, and spiritual alignment in a calm, relaxed state. Ultimately, the death and resurrection motif emphasizes that transformation is continuous and inevitable, but also gentle and harmonious. Dionysus's presence reassures both mortals and nature that endings are temporary, that renewal is natural, and that life moves in patterns of rhythm, reflection, and regeneration. Narrated with immersive sensory detail, reflective pacing, and meditative imagery, these stories allow the listener to drift into contemplation, experiencing both the symbolic depth of myth and the calming cadence of eternal cycles. Through this motif, Dionysus teaches that surrender, acceptance, and awareness of natural rhythms lead to insight and serenity. The listener, guided gently through the cycles of ending and renewal, is left with a sense of peace, continuity, and the quiet joy of transformation, fully immersed in the serene and contemplative world of Greek mythology. Dionysus's mythology is not only about ecstasy, ritual, and transformation, it also deeply intertwines with the theme of love. His presence evokes not only the joyful liberation of celebration, but also the subtle, transformative power of emotional connection. In the calm, immersive storytelling style, tales of his relationships, desires, and romantic influence are narrated slowly, emphasizing reflection, warmth, and the quiet intensity of devotion. The listener can drift gently into these stories, absorbing the beauty of love in all its forms without agitation or tension. One of the most significant relationships in Dionysian myth is with Ariadne, the Cretan princess who becomes his devoted companion. Their love is characterized by both tenderness and devotion, framed within the gentle rhythms of myth rather than overt drama. Dionysus finds in Ariadne not only a partner, but a kindred spirit, someone whose loyalty, insight, and warmth complement his own dual nature. Narrated softly, the story allows the listener to imagine quiet glades, soft moonlight, and the gentle intertwining of hands, emphasizing the meditative and serene qualities of affection rather than intensity or urgency. Love in Dionysus's world is transformative. Just as he alters mortals, nature, and ritual through his divine energy, he also transforms the emotional landscape of those who encounter him. Affection, desire, and attachment become pathways to insight, reflection, and joy. The listener can picture subtle changes in emotion and awareness, like the soft unfurling of a flower at dawn or the quiet ripple of a stream in sunlight. These gentle metaphors reinforce the idea that love, under Dionysus's influence, is both nourishing and liberating, guiding the heart toward connection and serenity. Romantic and emotional relationships in Dionysian myth often blend with ritual and nature. Lovers may meet in sacred groves, along the banks of rivers, or beneath the shade of vineyards. Music, fragrance, and movement all enhance the atmosphere, creating spaces where affection, devotion, and desire are intertwined with spiritual and natural rhythms. The Maenads and Satyrs, for instance, witness these subtle energies, moving in patterns that echo both communal celebration and private intimacy. The listener, guided by gentle narration, can sense the slow, harmonious flow of emotion, ritual, and environment. Desire in Dionysus's mythology is not impulsive or frenzied. It is deliberate, reflective, and attuned to rhythm and harmony. Encounters between mortals and the god are imbued with a sense of timing, awareness, and subtle guidance. Just as he encourages liberation and insight in ritual, Dionysus fosters depth, understanding, and respect in emotional relationships. The listener can imagine the warmth of shared glances, the quiet comfort of proximity, and the soft resonance of laughter and music, all depicted in a soothing, sleep-friendly style that invites reflection and calm. Even unrequited or challenging love carries gentle lessons. Mortals who struggle with attachment, jealousy, or longing are subtly guided by Dionysus toward understanding, empathy, and growth. The narrative emphasizes emotional maturation, highlighting how divine influence transforms feelings into insight and serenity. Sensory details, soft pacing, and contemplative description ensure that tension is minimal, replaced instead by gentle reflection and meditation on the nature of affection and devotion. The duality of Dionysus extends to his expression of love as well. He embodies both ecstasy and tenderness, passion and calm, desire and restraint. Through his interactions, the listener can perceive how love is not merely an emotion but a rhythm, a pattern that mirrors the broader themes of transformation, renewal, and harmony pervasive in his mythology. Every gesture, every soft word, and every shared moment reflects a balance between intensity and serenity, allowing the audience to experience love as a meditative and immersive force. Ultimately, Dionysus and love highlight the intimate and transformative power of connection. Affection, devotion, and desire under his influence are pathways to understanding, reflection, and gentle liberation. Narrated with immersive sensory detail, slow pacing, and meditative focus, these stories allow the listener to feel the quiet beauty of romantic and emotional bonds, absorbing the rhythm and harmony that characterize Dionysus's world. The tales of love, like his rituals and transformations, are calming, reflective, and rich in symbolic depth, guiding the audience into a serene state of contemplation and relaxation. Through Dionysus, the listener experiences love as an element of divine rhythm, a force that nurtures, transforms, and harmonizes both the heart and mind. This gentle, immersive approach ensures that the myths remain soothing, educational, and meditative, allowing the audience to drift through the narrative with a sense of calm, connection, and reflective joy, fully immersed in the tranquil beauty of Greek mythology. The influence of Dionysus extends far beyond the myths of his birth, adventures, and rituals. His presence resonates throughout Greek culture, inspiring art, drama, philosophy, and communal traditions. In the calm, immersive storytelling style suited for relaxation and contemplation, his legacy is explored as a quiet yet powerful current running through human history, a force that transforms thought, creativity, and spiritual awareness in ways both subtle and profound. The listener can sense the gentle rhythm of influence, like a river flowing quietly through the landscape of human culture, shaping, nourishing, and connecting lives over time. One of the most visible aspects of Dionysus's legacy is his impact on the arts. Theater, music, and dance all bear his signature, particularly through the ancient Greek tragedies and comedies that originated in festivals dedicated to him. Playwrights like Euripides and Sophocles drew upon his myths, transforming stories of ecstasy, tragedy, and divine interaction into structured performances that moved both audience and performer. Even today, the rhythm, emotion, and symbolic resonance of these works reflect the enduring presence of Dionysus, whose themes of transformation, liberation, and connection continue to inspire creative expression. The listener can imagine softly lit stages, actors moving with deliberate grace, and the murmur of attentive spectators, all part of a ritual echoing the god's influence. Beyond theater, Dionysus's legacy is visible in ritual and community practices. His festivals, originally sacred rites, became gatherings that combined religious devotion with social cohesion. The Bakshik mysteries and public celebrations, with their music, dance, and ceremonial structure, shaped the ways communities experienced shared joy, reflection, and spiritual insight. These gatherings emphasized patterns, rhythm, and collective presence, illustrating the integration of personal transformation with communal connection. Narrated in a soft, immersive voice, the listener can sense the subtle energy of these festivals, feeling the gentle pulse of shared human experience that continues to resonate across time. Dionysus also left a profound imprint on philosophy and spiritual thought. Philosophers and mystics considered him a symbol of the duality of human existence: reason and emotion, order and chaos, mortality and divine insight. His myths encouraged reflection on the balance of life, the necessity of change, and the integration of joy, suffering, and liberation into human consciousness. In this meditative storytelling style, the listener is invited to consider the quiet wisdom embedded in his legacy, the idea that embracing both light and shadow, ecstasy and restraint, is essential to understanding oneself and the broader world. Symbolically, Dionysus embodies the interconnectedness of nature, humanity, and the divine. His rituals, myths, and teachings highlight the seamless integration of these realms, offering insight into patterns of growth, renewal, and transformation. Even beyond ancient Greece, his presence can be traced in art, literature, and spiritual practice that celebrates cycles of life, communal celebration, and the interplay of freedom and discipline. The listener, immersed in calm, reflective narration, can sense the subtle continuity of these influences, like the soft echo of footsteps along an ancient path, guiding human thought and creativity across centuries. Dionysus's legacy is also found in personal and psychological transformation. His myths offer archetypal lessons for embracing change, surrendering to rhythm, and connecting with both instinct and intellect. Participants in his rites, real or imagined, learn to reconcile opposites: liberation with responsibility, joy with reflection, ecstasy with serenity. In a sleep-friendly narrative, the listener can absorb these lessons gently, imagining the quiet unfolding of insight and awareness in themselves, inspired by the patterns and symbolism of Dionysian mythology. Even the aesthetic qualities of his mythology, music, color, ritual, movement, remain influential. Artists, storytellers, and performers continue to draw on the rich imagery of vines, forests, wine, dance, and ecstatic expression. The listener can picture soft candlelight on painted scenes, the swaying of garments in gentle wind, and the faint notes of flute or lyre, all echoing the god's enduring imprint on human creativity. These subtle details reinforce the calming, immersive nature of Dionysus's influence, blending symbolic depth with sensory richness. Ultimately, Dionysus's legacy is not limited to myth alone. It is a living presence, woven into the rhythms of culture, spirituality, and human expression. His stories, rituals, and archetypes offer pathways to understanding joy, transformation, love, and connection. Narrated with gentle pacing, reflective tone, and immersive sensory detail, the tales of his influence allow the listener to experience both the serenity and depth of his enduring presence. The god's legacy is a reminder that myth is not static but flows through time, shaping human thought, emotion, and culture in subtle, enduring ways. Through this lens, Dionysus becomes more than a character in stories. He is a guide, a teacher, and a symbol of continuity, transformation, and insight. The listener, enveloped in the calm cadence of narrative, can feel the quiet but powerful impact of his influence, sensing its reflection in art, ritual, community, and personal growth. The serenity of this storytelling ensures that his legacy is both educational and meditative, leaving the audience immersed in the gentle, reflective beauty of Dionysian mythology. Dionysus is a god of contrasts, embodying dualities that define both his character and his influence over the world. His mythology is filled with the interplay of opposing forces, ecstasy and restraint, chaos and order, liberation and guidance, joy and reflection. These dualities are not contradictions, but complementary aspects of his nature, each illuminating the other. In the calm, immersive storytelling style, the listener can explore these contrasts gently, observing how Dionysus balances extremes in ways that are reflective, serene, and deeply instructive. Ecstasy, one of Dionysus's defining traits, manifests in celebration, ritual, and transformative experience. Through music, dance, and immersion in natural rhythms, followers experience liberation from ordinary constraints, entering heightened states of awareness. This ecstasy is not chaotic or dangerous in the narrative. It is a controlled, rhythmic, and reflective process. Imagine a twilight grove alive with the gentle rustling of leaves, soft murmurs of a river, and the subtle, harmonious sounds of lyres and flutes. The listener is drawn into this immersive environment, sensing joy and freedom as a calm, meditative force that encourages reflection rather than tension. Yet Dionysus is equally a god of restraint and guidance. Even in moments of apparent frenzy, there is order, purpose, and subtle instruction. The god shapes experiences so that liberation becomes meaningful and ecstasy leads to insight. Mortals and initiates are guided through rituals and transformation with care, learning lessons about humility, respect, and awareness. The duality of ecstasy and restraint mirrors natural rhythms, the ebb and flow of tides, the cycles of seasons, and the gentle alternation of day and night. The listener can sense these patterns in the calm pacing of the story, feeling both the energy of liberation and the soothing presence of structure. Chaos and order form another central duality. Dionysus's myths depict events that may appear disorderly at first glance, yet each carries an underlying logic, pattern, or symbolic meaning. Kings who resist him, mortals who misunderstand his rituals, and even rival gods contribute to scenarios that are intricate and dynamic, yet ultimately cohesive. Chaos, in the Dionysian sense, is not threatening. It is transformative, prompting reflection, adaptation, and growth. Order, meanwhile, emerges gently from these experiences, showing how divine influence, natural cycles, and human choice interconnect harmoniously. The listener can imagine the subtle interplay of these forces, like sunlight filtering through leaves while a soft breeze stirs the branches, both movement and stability coexisting beautifully. The duality of joy and reflection is also central to Dionysus's mythology. Celebration and ecstasy are always paired with moments of insight, learning, or emotional depth. Rituals, transformation, and even divine rivalry carry contemplative layers, inviting participants and the listener to perceive meaning beyond surface-level experience. In this immersive storytelling approach, the rhythm of narrative mirrors this duality. Lively, engaging sequences flow into quieter, reflective passages, creating a meditative cadence that is both educational and calming. Dionysus's duality extends to his relationship with mortals and nature. He is at once liberator and guide, instilling freedom while emphasizing responsibility and respect. Forests flourish under his influence, yet they also demand attentiveness. Rivers shimmer with vitality, yet their currents remind observers of the flow and limits of life. His dual nature teaches balance, illustrating that extremes, ecstasy and order, chaos and guidance, are interconnected, each informing the other in a harmonious cycle. The listener can visualize this interplay through immersive sensory details. The shimmer of water, the sway of branches, and the rhythmic steps of ritual, all echoing Dionysus's serene, instructive power. Even in love, duality is evident. Dionysus combines passion and tenderness, desire and care, liberation and devotion. Relationships are not impulsive or reckless, but reflective and guided, blending emotional intensity with gentle awareness. Followers and companions experience joy and insight simultaneously, illustrating how the dualities inherent in the god's nature manifest in personal, intimate contexts. Narrated slowly and vividly, these stories allow the listener to feel both the exhilaration of connection and the quiet wisdom that shapes it. Ultimately, the duality of Dionysus exemplifies a profound philosophical truth embedded in Greek mythology. Life is composed of interwoven contrasts, and understanding emerges from balance, reflection, and acceptance of complexity. Ecstasy without reflection can overwhelm, while restraint without liberation can stagnate. Chaos without order may confuse, while order without freedom can stifle growth. Dionysus embodies the harmony of these forces, demonstrating through myth that duality is not conflict but complementarity. The listener, immersed in calm, sensory-rich narration, can absorb this lesson intuitively, experiencing the serene depth of Dionysian wisdom. Through this exploration, the listener understands Dionysus not merely as a god of wine, ecstasy, or ritual, but as a symbol of life's dynamic balance. His duality teaches that liberation and guidance, joy and reflection, chaos and order are intertwined, shaping both human experience and the natural world. Narrated with immersive detail, meditative pacing, and reflective tone, these stories allow the audience to experience calm, insight, and gentle contemplation, fully immersed in the serene, harmonious world of Dionysian mythology. Transformation lies at the heart of Dionysus's mythology. Unlike gods who wield power in a purely physical or destructive sense, Dionysus inspires change that is fluid, reflective, and often subtle. His influence extends to mortals, nature, and ritual, revealing the interwoven patterns of life, consciousness, and divine presence. In this calm, immersive storytelling approach, transformation is narrated not as sudden or shocking, but as a gradual unfolding, a gentle shift that allows the listener to observe and reflect on change as a natural, rhythmic process. Among mortals, Dionysus's power to transform is often both literal and metaphorical. Stories tell of individuals altered in form, behavior, or perception as a direct result of their interactions with the god. These transformations are not intended to punish without purpose. Instead, they serve as lessons, opportunities for growth, or gateways to understanding. Imagine a mortal wandering through a sunlit grove, unaware of the subtle energy of Dionysus surrounding them. Slowly, their senses heighten, their emotions shift, and they perceive life with new depth and awareness. The narrative emphasizes the soft unfolding of these changes, allowing the listener to sense transformation as a calm, reflective process rather than a startling event. Nature itself undergoes transformation under Dionysus's influence. Vineyards flourish more abundantly after his touch, forests shimmer with vitality, and rivers seem to flow with heightened clarity. Even the smallest creatures, birds, deer, insects, respond to his presence, moving in ways that reflect the god's subtle energy. These changes, though minor in scale, illustrate the pervasive reach of Dionysus's power, demonstrating how transformation can be both gentle and profound. Through detailed sensory description, the listener can imagine leaves glistening with dew, the soft murmur of a river, and the quiet vitality of the natural world, all subtly shaped by divine influence. Rituals themselves are transformative experiences. Participants in Dionysian rites enter altered states of consciousness, whether through music, movement, or meditation on nature's rhythms. The Maenads, satyrs, and initiates of the Bakshik mysteries experience liberation from ordinary perception, accessing heightened awareness and insight. Each step, each gesture, each note of music contributes to a gradual shift, a soft opening of the mind and body to new perspectives. The listener, immersed in the calm, rhythmic narration, can sense the ebb and flow of energy, the slow progression of awareness, and the meditative joy of transformation unfolding naturally. Dionysus's transformations often bridge the human and divine. Mortals who experience his influence may gain temporary or lasting insight, a heightened appreciation of beauty, or the capacity for joy and ecstasy that mirrors the god's own nature. Transformation is not limited to physical alteration. It is also psychological, emotional, and spiritual. The narrative encourages gentle observation, allowing the listener to contemplate how change occurs gradually, how awareness deepens, and how subtle guidance from a divine presence can lead to profound personal growth. Even moments that could be framed as dramatic or alarming, such as punishment or retribution, are narrated with soft, deliberate pacing. A king or mortal who resists Dionysus may undergo transformation as a form of teaching, discovering new perspectives or experiencing changes in circumstance that encourage humility and understanding. These moments are described with attention to detail and rhythm, emphasizing reflection and the poetic justice inherent in myth rather than conflict or tension. The listener can absorb the lessons quietly, sensing the balance between guidance, consequence, and liberation. The concept of transformation extends to society and culture as well. Dionysus's rituals, festivals, and teachings influence communities, encouraging new patterns of thought, behavior, and social interaction. Through participation in his rites, humans experience collective shifts in consciousness, shared joy, and the formation of bonds that reflect both divine and natural rhythms. These changes, described gently and with immersive detail, allow the listener to visualize the spread of Dionysian influence and the subtle, calming ways it shapes lives and landscapes. Dionysus himself embodies transformation in every aspect of his being. He is a god of dualities, chaos and order, ecstasy and reflection, wildness and nurturing. His own form, behavior, and presence shift according to context, demonstrating the fluidity and adaptability of divine energy. The listener, guided by soft narration and vivid imagery, can feel these transformations as natural extensions of myth, appreciating how change is an inherent part of both the divine and human experience. Ultimately, Dionysus and transformation are inseparable. His mythology teaches that change is not to be feared but embraced, that liberation, growth, and insight emerge through gentle guidance, ritual, and attention to natural rhythms. Through slow, immersive storytelling, the listener experiences the unfolding of transformation in mortals, nature, and ritual, sensing the quiet, reflective power of the god and the calm, rhythmic patterns that define his mythology. This meditative approach ensures that the narrative is both engaging and sleep-friendly, allowing the audience to drift gently into contemplation, understanding, and relaxation.